Hello and welcome back to the Air Armoury. I'm JRH and today I'm going to be talking about and shooting a variety of different types of airgun pellets and projectiles. It's generally accepted that the standard airgun pellet is a modern lead Diablo, something like these Air Arms Diablo field pellets. But not all pellets look like these. There are a huge array of pellets out there of different shapes, sizes, weights and materials. So I wanted to do a quick video to help navigate a course into this minefield and talk about some of those different pellets, both those everyday stalwarts as well as some slightly more unusual ones. Now this isn't an exhaustive list, as there are some types of pellets and projectiles I couldn't get my hands on, but I do have 13 different types to show you. This video is largely inspired by an educational video I saw a little while ago called Rounds of Authority, which is made by the United States Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, and that was all about different types of shotgun ammunition. And in that video they divided the ammunition up into 3 different categories, which were conventional, specialty and exotic. And I think airgun pellets, or projectiles is probably a better word to use, can also be divided into similar categories. So I'm going to divide them up into standard, specialty and unconventional. So what I'm going to do in this video is show you a number of different types of pellets and talk about their design, purpose and pros and cons. And then after that I'll shut up for a bit, get some guns out and shoot some, if not all of the pellets covered in this video. First of all I'm going to be looking at the standard pellets, which are readily available in a variety of calibers and general types of pellets rather than kind of individual pellets by specific manufacturers. Now I'll kick things off with domed wasted pellets, often referred to as Diablo pellets. Now, as I said in my introduction, this is really kind of your standard airgun pellet. Whilst the quality of the pellets will vary depending on the manufacturer, the Diablo is generally accepted as an excellent all-round pellet. And you can use it for most applications such as hunting, HFT and plinking, and they are probably the most common design of pellet and are available in all mainstream calibers, so 177 and 22, but also in 2.0 and 2.5. Now domed, or the Diablo pellets, don't really have any negatives in my opinion, and these particular ones are Air Arms Diablo field pellets. Secondly, I have some hollow points. Again, this is a conventional wasted pellet, but the tip, as the name suggests, is hollow. And having that hollow tip means that the maximum energy possible is dumped into the target, with the outer rim of that tip expanding to cause maximum damage. And for that reason they're designed as a hunting pellet. They're really effective and they do their job well. The only downside though is that they lack the penetration power of some other pellets, but that's only really an issue if you need particularly deep penetration. Now you can get them in 177, but because they're tailored to hunting, they're a much bigger choice in 2.2, and these particular ones are Diana Diablo Barracuda Hunter Hollow Points in 2.2. Next we have flat tipped pellets. These ones are completely flat on the end, and they are often referred to as wad cutters. And that's because when they hit a paper target, instead of simply just penetrating through, they cut out a small wad of paper, leaving a perfectly circular hole. For that reason they're used in competitive target shooting, and not so much HFT, but for matches and things like the Olympics, as it's very clear to see exactly where the pellet is hit. I've heard as well though that they are also supposed to be very good for hunting, as the flat surface allows maximum energy transfer to your quarry. And wad cutters generally come in 177. These particular ones are Bisley practice pellets. My last pellets in the standard category are pointed pellets. Now these are very similar to the domed pellet, except they obviously have a pointed tip instead of just the dome, and that helps increase penetration, so they're good hunting pellet. They aren't as popular as domed pellets, and I generally find that they're not as well made, and therefore slightly cheaper, which makes them a good plinking pellet in my opinion. And the inferior quality has nothing really to do with the design, it's just that a lot of the pointed pellets, or at least the ones that I've seen and used, are made by manufacturers at the lower end of the market. And these particular ones I have here are SMK Spitfire pointed pellets, which are in 2.2, but you can also get plenty of pointed pellets in 1.77. I'm now going to move on to my second category, which is specialty pellets. Now the pellets in this category are still types of pellets rather than specific examples, but they're less common than the standard pellets with fewer manufacturers making them, but for the most part they are all available and do serve specific purposes. Firstly, in the specialty category is lead balls. Now these can be used in most air guns, but there are some certain number of guns that are actually designed to fire them, in particular some pre-war European guns. Now the balls have to be lead rather than just using more common steel BBs, as those will damage your rifling. They're also great in smoothbore guns as well. Most commonly found in 177 or some slightly smaller calibers such as 4.4mm, but they're not particularly easy to find in the UK, but they're far more plentiful in mainland Europe. Now these particular ones are 177 Gamo round, and I'm showing you those ones because you can actually buy those here in the UK. I've actually done a full video on lead balls and comparing them to conventional pellets, in which I go into much more detail, so I'll put a link to that in the description below if you're interested. Next we have slugs. Now these are a much older design and predate domed pellets. They are hollow but have straight sides rather than the conventional modern waist. They're primarily made for use in smoothbore air guns, but as air guns generally all have rifle barrels nowadays, these have somewhat fallen out of fashion. Now I think there is still a company or two that make them in some form or another, but old ones do come up for sale from time to time. These particular ones I have here are hollow slugs made by Milbro, and they're in 177, and I bought these online a while ago. I'm not sure how old they are, but a good few decades. Moving on, we have lead-free Diablos. Now lead has always been the material of choice for airgun pellets, and probably always will be. However, there is a small but growing trend for lead-free pellets. They're generally conventionally shaped like these, but are made of a lead-free alloy. Now these particular ones are Gamo Raptor pellets in 177, but others are available and include the H&N Sport Green range, which include lead-free versions of their Field Target Trophy and Barracuda pellets. Now benefits of these are that they are non-toxic and more environmentally friendly, and because of the metal used generally retain their shape better than lead pellets. Disadvantages though are that they are more expensive, there isn't much choice, and they could potentially damage the rifling of your barrel. Lastly, in the specialty category is what I'm labelling hybrids or variations of the pellets in the standard category. These are often trying to combine the best elements of two or more pellets, or tweaking existing designs for a specific purpose. Now the pellets I have to illustrate this are Crossman Destroyers in 177. As you can see from the tip, are a cross between pointed pellets and hollow points, and the purpose of those is to maximise both penetration and stopping power. Other pellets that I would include in this type would be Gamo Tomahawks, which are essentially the same as the Crossman Destroyers, Air Arms Diablo Hunters, which are essentially the domed Diablo field pellets I showed you earlier on, except that the very tip has been flattened off, and H&N Sport Hunter Extremes, which are a slight variation on hollow points, whereby instead of the tip being hollow, it has a cross section cut out to help it expand, so the tip of the pellet almost looks like a Phillips head screw. Moving on to my last category now, which is unconventional pellets. This category, they're more projectiles as much as pellets. These are much more unusual and move into the realm of individual pellets by specific manufacturers. Now first of all, you have darts. Now these are made of steel with a sharp point at the front and a brightly coloured artificial tail at the back. Now these were a lot more common in the early 20th century when they were used to be fired at dartboards, and because they're made of steel they need to be fired from a smoothbore rifle as they'll damage rifling, and of course smoothbore air rifles were much more common when airgun darts were popular. They don't really have a lot of use now, but you can still get them, although they're quite expensive. These ones are made by Armoury and are in 2.2, but you can also get them in 1.77. Next we have armour penetration pellets made by Gamo. Now these are designed solely with penetration in mind. They're only made in 1.77. They're made of a lead-free alloy which doesn't deform as much as lead, and then they have a copper-coated steel BB in the tip. Now I'm not quite sure when you'd need to pierce armour with an airgun, but if you do need to, these are definitely the pellets for you, and I do actually have a full review on these pellets, so I'll put a link to that in the description below. Moving on, we have tipped pellets, whereby the tip is made of a different material to the pellet itself. Now depending on the tip, this is to increase penetration or expansion. These particular ones are Gamo Zombie Tracker pellets in 1.77, and they have a glow-in-the-dark hard polymer tip, which increases penetration but also causes the lead to expand around the hard tip upon impact. Now I have actually done a full review of these pellets, so again I'll put a link in the description below to that. As well as the zombie trackers, you can also get others including JSB Predators, which have a red polymer tip, Gamo Red Fire, which have a red polymer tip, Gamo Blue Flame, which have a blue polymer tip, and Gamo Bear Grylls pellets, which have an orange soft point tip. Now technically the Gamo armour penetration pellets could also be included in this category, but I covered them separately as they had a specific purpose. Now tipped pellets are designed for hunting. Now they're a good idea in theory, but they're quite expensive. There's not a huge amount of choice, and if I'm honest, they still seem a bit of a novelty to me. Next up are Sussex Sabos, which are a really interesting pellet. The actual pellet, or bullet as the manufacturer calls it, is a small aerodynamic projectile for maximum penetration and downrange energy retention, so were designed as a hunting pellet. Now the bullets were smaller than the diameter of the barrel, so they also came with these plastic expanding cup sabos, which held the bullet in place as it travelled down the barrel, and then the sabo fell away after it left the barrel. They were quite fiddly to assemble, so they came with a special loading tool. They were made by Sussex Ballistics Limited in the 1980s, but you can still pick them up on online auction sites. Again, I've done a full review of these, so link in the description below. Last of all are Prometheus pellets, which are made, or at least distributed, by Pax Guns. These are a lead-free pellet, which are designed to be very aerodynamic and have a high level of ballistic performance. You can see that they have a metal tip which actually extends down and forms almost like a metal core down inside this plastic jacket. Now I'm not sure what they're designed for, presumably hunting, but I don't know. They're quite expensive. You only get around 100 in the tub, and the plastic can cause fouling in the barrel. These particular ones are Paragon Z1 in 2.2, but you can get a few different types in both 2.2 and 1.77. Now you've seen some of the different types of pellets you can get up close. As promised earlier, I think it's about time I started shooting them. Now I'm not testing their accuracy or really even seriously comparing them. I'm just going to have some fun shooting them for you to see, although I will show the results afterwards. Now I have here a 7mm thick MDF board, which as you can see I've divided into squares for each of the pellets and then labelled them so I know which pellet is going where. And if I turn it over, you can see that I've also done the same thing on the back, but in reverse. And the reason for that is because I'm going to have my normal camera filming from the front, but I'm also going to film from the back using my GoPro so that I can see the pellets coming through the board. I've set up that labelled board about 10 metres that way. I've got all my pellets set out here in the order that I'm going to be shooting them, which is the same order that I've just been through them. And you'll also notice that I've got a selection of guns out. For my 177 pellets, I'm going to be using my Remington Express, fitted with a Remington 4x32 scope. For my conventional 2.2 pellets, I'm going to be using my Air Arms TX200 Mark III, fitted with a Hawk 3-9x40 Air Max scope. For most of the non-lead 2.2 pellets, I'm going to be using my BSA Mark IV Super Meteor, fitted with a Gamo 4x20 scope. And for the darts only, I'm going to be using an unscoped SMK XS 1918, as I'm not too fussed about damaging the rifling in that. First up are the domed pellets. Got my air arms for this one. Next up are the hollow points. Again, I want my air arms. Moving on, we now have the flat tipped. Got my Remington Express. Then onto the pointed. Again, we have 2 2s for the air arms. Lead balls. Going back to my Remington. Slugs, so again I want the Remington for that. Non-lead Diablos. The Remington once again. Hybrid or variant pellets. Again, sticking to Remington. Darts. I'm going to go for a blue one. SMK XS 1918. Armour penetration. Back to the Remington. Tipped pellets. Remington again. Now these Sussex Sabo pellets. Now if you've seen my video on these, you may recall that I said not many of them come with their original loading tool, as they were easily lost. Well, not only did mine not come with the original loading tool, I've actually managed to lose the loading tool I made for it, so this is going to be a little bit tricky to load. Okay, just about managed it. Last but not least, the Prometheus pellets. Here I have my results. You can see similar shape entry holes on all of them. There are obviously different sizes. Things like the hollow point creates, for example, a far bigger hole than those little 177 lead balls. The darts one obviously has got nothing in it. That ended up down here. Quite a small hole there for the Sussex Sabo. Now turning over to have a look what they do on the back, slightly more difference. Some of them just kind of push their way through and kind of flare out some of this MDF, whereas others, the pointed pellets there on the hollow points, make a far bigger hole coming out the back. Again, the tip pellets there is quite a good entry hole, exit hole, sorry. And the dart is just about here, hasn't actually pierced all the way through. So it's kind of the results I was expecting, but quite interesting nonetheless. So there you've seen a number of different airgun projectiles and pellets and what they'll do to a thin MDF board. Now I'm sure most of you have seen lots of these before and used them regularly, but hopefully there's something in there that you haven't come across before, or at least haven't tried or didn't know much about. All of the pellets and projectiles have their merits, although personally I think some of them are a bit of a novelty. And whilst there's technically no wrong type of pellet to use in any shooting application, there are definitely certain types of pellets that are better suited to certain types of shooting. Now in this video I haven't gone too much into pellet calibers and weights. That's partly because I didn't want to get too bogged down with technical detail, but also partly because I'm planning to do videos on those subjects in the future, so keep an eye out for those if you're interested. So thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe to the Air Armoury, and until next time, keep your arms in the air.